Hi, I'm Karen. We're here at Montavilla Sewing Center, and we're going to talk about the Baby Lock Victory, which is also very similar to the Baby Lock Imagine, if you have one of those. Today we're going to talk about the maintenance of this machine. Now, one of the first things that we need to remember is that sergers produce a lot of lint, and that's mainly because of the cutter mechanism. As it's cutting, it produces lint. And then you've got the interaction of the four threads and the loopers and the needles. So I like to brush out my machine regularly. You can also take your vacuum cleaner hose attachment, and as you're brushing, it will help suck out some of that excess lint. Now, to give it a really thorough cleaning, you may want to unthread it. Also, in terms of just overall maintenance, sergers, they run fast, they do a lot of sewing all at once. So you may want to bring in your serger for service here at Montavilla Sewing Center about once a year if you do a lot of sewing on that. Now, the blade here, the two blades, the lower blade is a harder metal than the upper blade. The upper blade may need to be changed. You do have an extra one in your accessory kit, but if you do need to change that, you'll notice that when it starts cutting, it seems to be kind of chewing the fabric and not cutting it cleanly. That means it's time to have that blade changed. It needs to be calibrated just right, the right height, which is another reason why you'd want to bring it in, have them do that for you. But you've already got the part, so it's a quick change if that's all that needs to be done. So we'd want to do a brush out each time. And then as far as the needles, if you're going to change your needles, what I like to do is take the needles out while they're still threaded. That way, if that needle drops down, the thread holds it. Here, I've got both of those out of there. And see, the thread is hanging onto those. And then I can just snip the threads and get those right out of there like that. Okay, so you don't need to oil this machine. Your book is going to say you don't really need to oil it, but if you ever do, make sure you never put any oil in the ports here. Just like it says, do not oil, because you don't want to gum up those ports. Okay, if you did want to oil, there is a kind of a, wherever it slips and slides, like right down in here, you could put a single drop of good quality sewing machine oil, never anything else, just good quality sewing machine oil. Okay, the looper tubes usually are just nice and free-flowing. You don't really have a problem with that unless you get a lot of dust. If you have dust here on the tops of your cones of thread, that dust is eventually going to get in here. So let's keep the dust off of here, keep the dust off your machine. When you're not using your machine, cover it with the cover that came with your serger, or you can make your own pretty cover too using your serger. But keep it covered up when you're not using it, and your thread should always be stored in a place where dust and light's not get into it. The light can cause it to fade and weaken, and of course the dust, we just talked about that. We don't want to have dust in our machine. So to put the needles back in your kit, you have this brush that has, this is what we'd use to clean it, but it also has this little hole at the end of it, which is what we're going to use to put our needles back in. The needles, by the way, size and type, HA by 1SP, which is a pretty standard needle. What's important with sergers is that you not go too small or too large. So 7511 is the smallest you should do for a needle, and 9014 is the largest. You can of course do an 8012, that would be just fine. And that has to do with the precision of the loopers passing by the needle to catch the thread and form a stitch. Okay, so we put this needle right in the end of the brush with the flat side facing away from us. Give it a little push so it stays put. And then I'd like to make sure that the presser foot's all the way down. And I poke that down in there where it sews, and this is the left-hand needle. Push that all the way up there. Move this out of the way so you can kind of see. Right in here, you can see the top end of the shaft of the needle all the way up to the top. It's nice to have that little window there. Make sure it's all the way up there and you hold it up there when you tighten this back up. And then if you're only going to use one needle, make sure that the other needle clamp screw is tightened so that it doesn't vibrate loose and get lost. So the left-hand needle, when it's in there, it's up a little bit higher than the right-hand needle, and that's important. I mean, you should never have them equal because that means the left hand is too far down. So it has to do with the formation of the stitch and the timing of the loopers. That's why the left-hand needle is higher than the right. So we're going to start by poking that down where it sews, push this all the way up there, and again you can see it right up there in that little window. Keep the upward pressure while you tighten this back up. And you just slide that right down there. So this is a wonderful little tool. You can also use this on your regular sewing machine for changing your needles. It's a really useful thing to have. Then, of course, you just rethread like normal. So that's basic maintenance on your machine. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the question comment box down below. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Watch some of our other videos for more information. Bye.